People tend to think that money is purely quantitative, that it's all about numbers and spreadsheets and adding and subtracting and making sure things line up. But actually, for most of us, money is an extremely emotional topic. And in fact, it's our relationship with money that needs the most work rather than all the tactical stuff behind the scenes. Hey, my name is Michelle. I'm an Atlanta-based financial advisor and financial coach, and these are my insights. I know we're here to talk about money today, but I actually want to kick things off and get started with a discussion of relationships. Because when it comes down to it, I personally have found that in this world, there are 3 relationships that you cannot escape. The first is food. As a human being requiring some sort of caloric intake, you've got to put food in. The second one is yourself. You have to have a relationship with yourself no matter where you go in this world. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your circumstances, you have to take you with you. And the third is actually money. So regardless of your views about how the world should be structured, we do live in a system and a society that requires money as a form to keep our lights on, to keep food in our body, sometimes to pay for the processing we do with our own relationships. All of that stuff requires money. So money is a relationship that you cannot escape when it comes down to it. I've seen a handful of people try and escape their relationship with money. They try and opt out of the system, or they say, I'm choosing not to have a relationship with money. But if you think about it, opting out or ignoring money is a form of a relationship. And in fact, that can be a relationship that doesn't serve you particularly well if it's something you're avoiding. This might be something that it's worth taking the time and making peace with. So while we're on the topic of relationships, let's think about what makes a good relationship. So think about it. Think about it like right now, all of the relationships in your life, chances are some are good, some are bad, some are somewhere in between. Of all the relationships you find most satisfying, most fulfilling, most engaging, what do those relationships have in common? Things that I frequently hear from folks, those relationships have some sort of give and take. There is some sort of communal feeling there, whether it's a friendship or a family member or a romantic involvement. Love, pretty high on that list. Passion, interest, mutual interests, quality time together, trust. All of those things make a good relationship. And what's interesting is they actually also flow into your relationship with money. So while you were thinking about what makes a good relationship, and while I was listing some things that I think makes a good relationship, how many of these did you recognize that you can actually apply to your relationship with money? How many of those apply to you in that situation? Do you love money? Does money love you back? Do you have passion for money? Do you spend quality time actually digging into your finances and figuring out where you want your money to go? Are you being deliberate with that relationship, or are you sort of flying by the seat of your pants? When it comes to a relationship with another person, some of those good descriptors might be the case because it's you who's putting in the work. And sometimes we're in good relationships that work because the other person is kind of helping us pull the load, or it's an equal exchange of energy there. When it comes to your relationship with money, you are the one who gets to decide what it looks like. Money is not going to come in and tell you, we're going to have a good relationship. I'm going to do all the work for you. It's actually you who kind of gets to decide those things in advance to say, of all of the traits out there for relationships, which ones do I value in this case? Which ones do I want to reflect my relationship with money? So this is good and bad, right? If you are kind of dependent on the other people in your life to kind of keep all of your relationships moving through the flow, you might find money to be a little bit of a challenge because it's not going to have that same engagement level that another human being can provide. On the other hand, if you find yourself perhaps saddled with relationships that do not necessarily serve you in the real world, and it's because of the negative actions of somebody else, this might be very refreshing news to you. This might be very good that, you don't have to worry about money sandbagging you. Money is going to come to this relationship as a completely neutral force. And then you, as the other party in the relationship, actually get to decide how it is that you want that relationship to look, what activities you're going to do together, how you're going to spend your time, and what sort of emotional labor that you're comfortable bringing to the table. So this has pros and cons. The good news is you get to call the shots. The bad news is you have to be the one to call all the shots. So regardless of how you feel about money now, keeping that in mind, I would say it's pretty important to have a good relationship with money. I mean, if money is coming to it from a neutral place, I would say it's only in your best interest to kind of get right with money as a concept, really understand how it works and how you want to play a role in that relationship and move forward accordingly. And that's where money mindsets come in. So money mindset simply is just the ways that we're thinking and feeling about money. How do we believe that money plays a role in our life? What actions are we taking with regards to our money? How are we feeling about it? Do we feel comfortable managing money? All of those thoughts and feelings sort of make up our mental relationship with money. At the end of the day, this is not going to replace good financial behaviors and actions. So money mindset is not going to replace a budget. It's not going to replace a good credit score. It's not going to replace healthy habits with debt. But so many of those other things stand upon the foundation of your money mindset. That money mindset is leading you to the actions and behaviors that you choose. So it kind of stands to reason that if you can get your money mindset right, it's actually going to help you make better choices with your finances on a more tactical level. You can't really handle all the quantitative analysis if you don't have your brain right. So that's what we're going to talk about pretty briefly today is money mindsets. And I want to really focus on this in two parts. So the first is, what is it that we think and feel about money today? So what's our current money mindset? And the second part will be knowing what we know about our money beliefs. How do we want to change that? Or what sort of thoughts and feelings do we want to adopt about money going forward? So I mentioned the concept of a money mindset. But when it comes to our money mindset today, there's another really important term that I think you should be aware of, and that's the money story. So money story is a little bit past looking. That's all of the things that have happened to us throughout our lives to give us the views on money that we have today. So your money story, in a way, all of the things that happen to you financially kind of then create your money mindset or flow into that money mindset. So I think it's useful for us to take a look at the past. It's useful to go back and think about how it is that you've interacted with money throughout your life, because that's going to influence how you think and feel about it. Obviously, if you have a lot of bad experience with money, that might have given you baggage. You might be sort of suffering from a negative money mindset. On the other hand, if you have a good sense of abundance, you've never really had to experience financial difficulties before, you might have a pretty positive money mindset. So those two pieces definitely work together. Your money story comes from a number of sources throughout your life. The first is family. So growing up, whether you were raised by parents or a guardian or grandparents, whoever raised you, chances are they were interacting with money. So how did they handle that situation? I've worked with a lot of folks whose parents argued about money, and it taught them that money is something to be argued over, that it is a point of contention, that it drives a wedge between people who love each other. So if you grew up in a household where arguments about money flowed more frequently than the money itself, you might not have very good viewpoints about money. On the other hand, if you had parents or guardians who raised you and you didn't have to talk about money or think about money at all, that might also have pros and cons. It might have taught you that we don't talk about money, or it's just not something that's appropriate to talk about with your friends and loved ones. Or it might be somewhere in the middle, right? So think about what that looked like for you. Growing up, what did your family believe about money? And how does that impact your own beliefs today? The second source of your money story that I'd like to offer to you is your religion. So again, some of you may or may not have been raised in a religious household, and that religion might have given you different viewpoints on what it is that people with money look like or act like. So is money the root of all evil? Is it a source of good? Is your money not truly yours, but it actually belongs to God or spirit? What is it that your religion or spirituality has taught you about money? For some of us, we might have also grown up in households where there was the expectation that a certain portion of your money is actually set aside and rooted back to your place of worship. So this is called tithing. And people who grew up with tithing often have, different other experiences about money to keep in mind. So to what extent that they feel ownership of their own money, that often can flow back into the religion or spirituality that they grew up with. The third piece that I'll offer you is popular culture. So we might not think about this, but there are money messages all over popular culture telling us what to believe. So sometimes we'll see examples where money is the corrupting force. And I would argue that these are more frequent than anything else. So think about Ebenezer Scrooge. Think about if you've got kids or you grew up in the 90s. Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob SquarePants, a perfect example of sort of this miserly, money-grabbing guy where his beliefs about money did not serve him. We did not want to be like that guy. We don't want to be like Ebenezer Scrooge. There are plenty of other examples out there. The Beatles song, Money Can't Buy Me Love, right? We've got all these incoming messages that kind of suggest that when it comes to being a good person, money is more of a roadblock than a prerequisite. You can think of counterexamples. Obviously, a good one that comes to mind is the sort of like Daddy Warbucks character in the musical Annie, where he is sort of he adopts a child and then sort of becomes this wonderful philanthropist. There are certainly obvious real life examples of that as well. Bill and Melinda Gates, just absolutely Scrooge McDuckin in their money, and yet they're using it to solve world problems. So, we're definitely seeing both of those messages out there. And certainly if you wanted to, you could look for just one or the other. But growing up, chances are that you were consuming some sort of popular culture that maybe pushed you one way or the other. So is money the root of all evil, or is it a tool that we get to use for good depending on how we feel about it? So between family and religion and popular culture, we're sort of taking in all of these inputs, and it's allowing us to shape our money story, which in turn is influencing our money mindset. So I would encourage you to take a few minutes and write down your own money mindset and write down your own money story. So how is it that you're thinking about money now? What do you believe about your finances? How did that come from your experiences growing up? I would recommend that you take a few minutes and do that now. If you want to go ahead and press pause, this might be a great time to do that. Get a pen and a piece of paper, write down kind of what you're thinking. Just do a quick 5 or 10 minute brain dump there, because I think this is really good knowledge to know about yourself. And it's definitely going to serve you well as we move into the second piece here, which is not just what's kind of happened to us in the past that influences how we're thinking about money, but how do we proactively, as thinking and feeling humans, want to approach our relationship going forward? So hopefully you took a few seconds and you wrote that down, or it's just nice and fresh in your brain because your money story is always top of mind for you. That might be the case. A couple of key takeaways, hopefully, that you gain from this exercise. One, your money story can help or hurt you. Sometimes it's useful information that we picked up, and sometimes it's, thoughts and feelings that don't serve us. And two, that for a lot of us, it's subjective. So people living with similar backgrounds might take away very different things from the experience. You might have, grown up in a situation of poverty and learned that money is hard to come by and everything is terrible. You might have grown up in poverty and learned the value of hard work and gone on to make millions, right? All of that stuff is subjective. It's our thoughts that sort of make it mean what it means. So the good news about that is if our thoughts are sort of running the show here, and it's our money mindset that's kind of helping flow into our behaviors, that we actually have a lot of control over that. And that when we kind of dig into our thoughts about money, we can create some better actions and thoughts going forward. With that in mind, I want to offer you up another tool that I've found particularly useful when it comes to kind of understanding how our thoughts influence our actions. And I want to give mad props to, there's a woman named Brooke Castillo. She is a life coach. She's very good. I recommend that you check out her work. She came up with this thought model. It's the CTFAR thought model, or just the model is what she calls it sometimes. And it's rooted in cognitive behavioral therapy, if you're at all familiar with that. So sort of trying to suss out the relationships between our thoughts and actions and take a more proactive approach. So the CTFAR thought model, in a nutshell, says that all of us have circumstances. That's the C. So C is for circumstances, and that's all of the neutral stuff happening to us in our lives. That's all of the events around us. All of that is completely neutral. The T stands for thoughts, and that's what we think about those circumstances. So thoughts are not neutral. Thoughts start to have positive power or negative power to them, depending on what we're thinking. So thoughts are the things that are interpreting those circumstances for us. The third, the F, is feelings. So when we think a certain way about a situation, that causes us to feel something. So we might feel guilt or anxiety or excitement or shame. All of those feelings sort of stem from our understanding of a situation. So we've got circumstances, that causes us to think thoughts, which causes us to feel feelings. When we feel those feelings, that leads to A, which is actions. So we always like to feel more good feelings or eliminate negative feelings. And we tend to act in a way that makes that happen for us. Or at least we think we act in a way that makes that happen for us. We're trying to feel more of the good stuff and get rid of some of the bad stuff. So with actions, all of that kind of flows directly out of our thoughts and feelings. We take action, and then that leads to R, which is our results. So everything that we are doing in this world, we're sort of creating, first starting from the brain, then from action, and then finally those results kind of make our new circumstances. So again, that's Brooke Castillo's CTFAR thought model. That's circumstances, thoughts, feelings, actions, and results. And this has been a really, really useful tool for me personally as I've been trying to build a better relationship with money, as well as tackle other focus areas in my own life. So this is not just for your financial relationships. This is for your interpersonal relationships. This is for your business or your workplace or your best friend. Anything that you've kind of been struggling with, this is a great way of thinking about it. So let me give you an example of what that looks like financially, because I want to make this a little bit more of a useful exercise as we're thinking about our money mindset. When we identified our money story and we took some time to lay out how we're currently thinking about money, chances are there are things in that list, thoughts that are not serving you. I want you to focus on the single most limiting belief you have about money. For me, one of my limiting beliefs is that money is hard to get. So money is hard to get. This might be something that you also have difficulty with as well, whether you're working for an employer or especially if you're running your own business, this might ring true for you. My thought sometimes is that money is hard to get. It's hard to come by. We'll take this thought model and run through it together and kind of show how this thought can lead us to have actions that are not in our best interest. So my circumstance then, in this case, is my business. That growing a business takes time. If things are not moving as quickly as I would like, that leads me to think making money is hard. Making money is a challenge. When I think this thought, I feel anxious. I feel scared. I feel like I am doing the wrong things. It kind of lets self-doubt creep in. When I feel anxious about money and I feel self-doubt about my business, that leads me to take actions that are very conservative. I'm afraid to talk to people about what I do. I don't like to open my bank account statements. It's causing me to pull away from my finances. And then obviously, as a result, if I'm not talking to potential clients, I'm not creating more business. If I'm not interacting with my finances, I'm not making sound financial choices. And so I'm sort of creating results that feed back into negative circumstances where I'm still sort of feeling overwhelmed and self-doubt about my work. Now, if that's a thought that I don't particularly enjoy the thought that making money is hard, how do I want to feel instead? For me, I want to feel like making money is easy. I want to feel like I have a sense of abundance and that I have the power to create the wealth that I want in my life. So let's think about it differently, right? My circumstances are completely the same. It's still my financial goings on. But now the new thought is I have the ability to create wealth for myself. I have the ability to make money. When I feel that way, I feel energized. All of a sudden, it feels like acting in my business is fun again. It feels like there's no harm in reaching out to potential contacts. There's no harm in opening my bank statements. I can do all of those things because money's available to me. I know that to be true. When I have that confident feeling or that excited feeling, I reach out to people. I'm actually taking action on moving forward. I'm learning about my finances. I'm comfortable doing those things. And then naturally, that creates the result of abundance. So it's not necessarily the case that 100% of the time we can think our way into abundance. But if we can cultivate that abundant money mindset, this will also let us take the actions that we need to achieve the results that we want. So I recommend that you run through this exercise with whatever is holding you back financially. Run through the CTFAR thought model and first use the thought that's holding you back. Map it all out, see how that thought might be impacting your life, and then go back again and choose a different thought. So choose proactively, what is it that I want to think about money instead, and plug that into the thought model. If you are the type of person who had this thought process and those feelings, what actions would you take? What are the potential results that would come from taking those actions? That's also useful to map out because it will keep you motivated as you're doing that work over time. I'll leave you with one final challenge. As you're going through the CTFAR thought model, what is the one overarching thought about money that you want to take with you? What's the one thing that you truly want to believe no matter what? We're going to call this your new money mantra. So your money mantra, that's going to be the single belief that sums up your money mindset, and cultivate it. So go through the thought process, go through the model with the new money mantra, see what it's kind of doing for your feelings and your actions, and repeat it to yourself constantly. Write it on your mirror, write it on a piece of paper and stick it in your wallet. Keep it with you at all times. Because knowing that you have the control and the power to change your relationship with money, at this point, it's all a matter of you deciding what you want that to look like. If you went through this exercise and you found it a huge challenge, or you went through this exercise and you said, cool, I've got my brain right, what next? It might be time to get a little bit of extra assistance. So as I mentioned before, money mindset, it's a great starting point, but it's not all there is to your personal finances. So if you're ready to take this next step with budgeting, paying down debt, investing, whatever the future holds for your money, and you find that you would need some assistance, I am a financial advisor and financial coach. I meet with folks here in Atlanta, Georgia in person or remotely across the United States. You can check out my website at www.youngandscrappy.com, and I look forward to connecting with you so that you can achieve the financial abundance you desire.